recalling it was exactly 1 year ago today that Muhammad Yunus came to UNH. And Dr. Yunus was notable because he was just one of 7 people in the world to win the Nobel Peace Prize, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and the Congressional Gold Medal. Others include Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, and Mother Teresa. Dr. Yunus was also notable for his innovative, even radical ideas to combat global poverty. In the 1960s in Bangladesh, Yunus lent $27 to 42 families to pay their debt to local creditors. In contrast to charity or government aid models, Yunus realized that poor people can repay small loans and repay them with interest to cover operating costs. And once repaid, that money can be recirculated again and again, a market-based model known as microcredit. Now the microfinance industry has grown to $7 billion and serves over 2 million people. Yunus didn't stop there. He continued to develop and promote market-based solutions to the world's big social and environmental problems through a vehicle he calls social business, for-profit businesses that are designed for social as well as financial goals and that feed profits back into the business for future growth and impact. And in this, Dr. Yunus is not alone. The traditional boundaries between government, business, and nonprofit sectors are blurring, and social entrepreneurs and other change makers are drawing upon all the tools they can, including the tools of business, to develop and grow solutions whose scale can match the magnitude of the problems that we face. On September 30th, 2013, over 700 people came to UNH to hear Dr. Yunus's keynote and to celebrate the winners of New Hampshire's first Social Venture Innovation Challenge. The challenge was designed to recognize innovative, market-based solutions to pressing social and environmental issues at the state, national, or global level. The challenge tapped into a stream of entrepreneurial energy across our campus and across the state. Just 4 weeks after the start of classes, 122 teams registered their intent to compete in the challenge. 65 teams subsequently submitted entries consisting of 39 student teams from 5 different New Hampshire colleges and universities and 26 community teams. Perhaps most exciting is the extremely wide range of different disciplines represented within UNH, with at least 18 different majors from 6 UNH colleges, showing that the entrepreneurial ideas behind social innovation are campus-wide ideas, ideas which have the ability to break down silos and to bring together individuals across traditional disciplinary lines to solve major social and environmental problems. I'm happy to report that the Social Venture Innovation Challenge will happen again this year, a partnership between Paul College, the Carsey School, UNH Sustainability Institute, and the EPSCoR program. Prizes have increased this year to $10,000, the top prize for the community track, and $5,000 for the student track. So we are fortunate this evening not only to have a fabulous speaker on Muhammad Yunus's heels on how businesses must and can and must direct themselves for social good as a key part of solving global poverty and other social and environmental problems. And we are also officially launching the 2nd annual Social Venture Innovation Challenge. My colleague Fiona Wilson will tell you more later tonight, but let me tell you, for those that might have to leave early, that the deadline to register intent to compete is 1 month from today, October 30th, and submissions are due November 19th. This competition rewards good ideas, and the requirements are simple, just a 2-page paper and a 3-minute video. So if Mal Warwick jogs your thinking tonight and a kernel of an idea pops out, write it down, build on it, and submit it to the challenge. Each year, UNH's Discovery Dialogue brings together students, faculty, staff, and community members around a timely and important topic. We're thrilled this year to be discussing Ideas for Good, a discovery dialogue on social innovation. Through the dialogue, we ask, what are sustainable solutions to complex social and environmental challenges, including poverty, climate change, access to clean water, healthcare, education, and more? Can business be a powerful force for good? What is our role as current and future agents of change? I'm pleased to note that tonight is the launch event for the 2014-2015 Discovery Dialogue on Social Innovation. So you are getting 2 launches tonight for the price of 1. And they say there's no such thing as a free launch. So what are business and market-based approaches to solving the big, complex issues of our time? What is a social venture? In just a moment, I'll show 2 quick videos from last year's Social Venture Innovation Challenge with inspiring examples. And then Mal Warwick will share his perspectives on business as an essential tool in global poverty alleviation. But first, I'd be remiss if I did not recognize three other sponsors and dear partners. First, the Responsible Governance and Sustainable Citizenship Project, RGSCP, provides opportunities for students and citizens of New Hampshire to learn how to be involved citizens and members of ethical, responsible, and productive communities, businesses, and organizations by bringing the past into dialogue with the present in order to inform the future. We've enjoyed working with RGSCP to link business tools and the complex social context in which those tools can be applied. Paul College of Business and Economics is really committing to supporting social entrepreneurs and sustainability through the Social Venture Innovation Challenge and related initiatives. The Carsey-Paul relationship reflects an essential point about social innovation. Social entrepreneurs and their new models ideally drive system-level change in policy, industry structure, and culture. And these system factors, in turn, affect how effective social entrepreneurs can be in their bold work. Two sides of the same coin, two starting points for the same goal of transformative change. And Net Impact UNH, a student-run organization that believes deeply in pursuing careers with impact. Net Impact is pushing UNH to evolve as an institution and better prepare our future problem solvers and social entrepreneurs. And finally, we wish to thank the Class of 1954 Academic Enrichment Fund for its financial support. Now, on to the videos.
Hi, I'm Brett Steinman, and I'm entering Agua Incorporated, which is a US-based technology company, into the UNH Social Innovation Challenge. From January to May of 2013, I spent 5 months traveling to 15 different countries around the world. I had the unique opportunity of traveling on board a ship with 12 startup businesses, including one dedicated to purifying water around the world. It was my introduction with Pedro Delgado Ortiz, the European entrepreneur, that sparked my interest in taking this European technology to the United States and using plants to purify water. It's clean, it's ecological, and we like to say it's sexy. The microfiber plant has the ability to float, thus creating a perfect root ecosystem promoting bacterial growth. These bacteria break down bad organisms in the water. Next, we remove the solids from the water, and the bacteria purifies the remaining product. The water is clean enough to be released into the river. Our energy costs are almost free. We remove odors and mud, and ultimately eliminate the complete use of chemicals. I returned home to the University of New Hampshire to find these microphyte plants growing in abundance. And it's these roots right here that are actually growing the bacteria that's cleaning this water.
Even with a higher electrical cost, the savings in chemicals, treating it to meet all the water quality standards is so much less than using the Oyster River. What you're proposing with the cattails, I just see a benefit to the Oyster River, due to the fact that it clean up some of the natural, how do I want to say, dirtiness that we have to remove to make it potable water.
Using chemicals.
You're using chemicals.
According to Daniel Peterson, the superintendent of wastewater for the town of Durham, a modern conventional system, such as the one used in Durham, would cost anywhere from $50 to $60 million to install. An Agua model, intended to clean water for over 16,000 people, requires half the maintenance, requires no chemicals, and costs less than $4 million. The town of Durham cleans 1.3 million gallons of wastewater each and every day. And our plants can handle that. My hope is to have a pilot program developed at the University of New Hampshire, an institution dedicated to sustainable practices and growth, and to one day spread the technology that is researched, grown, and honed in this university across the world.
Has a demonstration project with the town of Rochester, and will be organizing a tour for water-related faculty. They also hired interns from UNH to work in Gambia over the summer, really exciting interdisciplinary ways. So that was the winner of the community track, which wonderfully had a UNH student on that team.
3 years ago, my friends and I at UNH noticed dumpsters overflowing with perfectly usable materials on campus. Furniture, electronics, clothing, dishware, decorations, and more were being discarded by students at the end of the school year. To tackle this problem, we created a program called Trash to Treasure. We collected thousands of usable items discarded by students, cleaned and organized them over the summer, then sold them at a giant yard sale during move-in weekend. In its first 3 years, UNH Trash to Treasure has had a big impact on campus. Now, 3 years later, we are working to bring this program to campuses nationwide through our project PLAN, the Post-Landfill Action Network. PLAN is a membership organization that provides seed funding, best practices guidance, program development workshops, and other support to help college students create or improve self-sustaining waste reduction programs at their school. PLAN's mission is to educate students about waste and engage them in the practical application of solutions that benefit them, their community, and the environment. On the back end, PLAN helps students reduce program costs by building economies of scale. We use a cooperative model to access benefits and discounts for program expenses like truck rentals and supplies. PLAN will help each campus start and grow programs that generate income and, if managed properly, provide an evergreen fund that students can use to reinvest in future waste reduction programs on campus. Each campus chooses how to reinvest these funds consistent with their campus culture, but the goal is that new, successful programs will be shared with the PLAN network so that others may learn. Ultimately, we want to help universities achieve zero waste. We believe that waste is simply a logistics problem waiting to be solved. The technology exists, primarily in the post-industrial sector, to recycle all sorts of hard-to-recycle items. Items like wood furniture, carpeting, mattress pads, textiles, and much more. PLAN establishes preferred vendor partner agreements with those companies and build rebates into our contracts so that we can help campuses establish waste reduction programs that wouldn't be possible without leveraging the size and scope of PLAN's network. We then aggregate collected materials among multiple campuses and help reduce costs by operating in bulk and minimizing the cost of transportation. The Post-Landfill Action Network represents an innovative way of eliminating waste. We combine principles of social entrepreneurship, franchising, cooperatives, microfinancing, and community organizations to empower college students to tackle a pervasive global problem. The education we provide on college campuses, along with the engagement of students with real-world solutions to these issues, will greatly accelerate the recycling industry and the sustainable product manufacturing industry. PLAN will help us all move towards a post-landfill planet, campus by campus, young leader by young leader. But we need your help to reach our goals. Funding from the New Hampshire Social Business Innovation Challenge will help us launch these efforts on our first 20 college campuses in the New England area this year.
So if you're wondering what a social venture is, those are two fantastic examples. And I hope many of you, whether community members, community entrepreneurs, or students, will consider entering this year's the challenge. Now to introduce our keynote speaker of the evening, Mal Warwick, is my colleague Bill Maddox. And when Alex Freed talked about PLAN being a mixture of cooperative models, microfinance, activism, I couldn't think of a better combination of words to describe Bill and his longstanding work in sustainable microenterprise and community development. So, Bill.
Good evening. A year ago, as UC mentioned, we had a very important visitor. Mohammed Yunus was here. He was a key speaker, a keynote speaker for the New Hampshire Social Venture Innovation Challenge. And now, a year later, I have the honor of introducing another great social entrepreneur, Mal Warwick. Mal is a co-author with Paul Pollack of The Business Solution to Poverty, Designing Products and Services for 3 Billion New Customers, which was published a year ago by Barrett Kohler Publishers. The Business Solution to Poverty won a gold award in the 2014 Axiom Business Book Awards. And I'll put in a plug that Mal will be signing books out in the lobby afterwards. So if you didn't get a chance to pick up the book, you'll have an opportunity after his remarks in the program. Earlier today, Mal participated in a luncheon where 35 UNH faculty, staff, and others gathered to envision what a comprehensive ecosystem, I should have said students, there were many students there. Faculty, staff, students, and others gathered to envision what a comprehensive ecosystem for social innovation, entrepreneurship, and impact might look like at UNH. With Mal's help, we explored a wide range of ideas to support UNH students to build sustainable solutions to the world's toughest problems. As Mal will soon explain, this is a critical time for our nation and our planet, and it's going to take a global ecosystem for social innovation to meet the immense challenges that we face. That global ecosystem starts right here in Durham. Mel Warwick is an author, impact investor, and activist who reviews books on Mel Warwick's blog on books. It's a great blog, by the way, and he's a prolific reader and blogger, so check it out. Mel is the founder and chairman of Mal Warwick Associates, Donor Digital, a fundraising agency specializing in integrated, multi-channel fundraising and marketing that has served nonprofit organizations nationwide since 1979. The company is a founding B Corporation and is now employee-owned. Mel has written or edited a total of 20 books, including the best-selling fundraising text, How to Write Successful Fundraising Letters. The third edition was released by Josie Bass Publishers in 2013 under the title, How to Write Successful Fundraising Appeals. A serial entrepreneur, Mel has been active in promoting social and environmental responsibility in the business community nationwide for 2 decades. He is the co-author of Values-Driven Business, How to Change the World, Make Money, and Have Fun, also by Barrett Kohler, with Ben Cohen, co-founder of Ben & Jerry's. The Business Solution to Poverty is the second book for Barrett Kohler. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Mel Warwick.
Thank you very much, Bill. Of course, don't believe a word of that. I mean, it's all untrue. Thank you, UC. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Carsey School. Thank you, Paul College. Thank everybody for coming. It is great to be here. It's been an inspiring day so far. We have a number of students in the room, and I'd like to single you out to find out just a trifle more about you right now. Think ahead, if you can, 5 years from now. Do you envision yourself working for a nonprofit organization in 5 years? Raise your hand if you think that's the most likely. Okay, we've got looks like 2 or 3. All right, how about if working for some multilateral institution like the UN or the World Bank or somebody like that? Anybody? Any takers? I don't see anybody. How about working in academia? Nobody wants to stay in academia? Oh, well, you haven't drunk the Kool-Aid yet. So, all right. How about business? You envision yourself being in business? Well, look at that. So why am I here? I don't need to talk you into anything. You've already decided. But I'm not sure that you have zeroed in on quite the right sort of business yet. So what I'm going to talk to you about tonight is a special kind of business that is being promoted by the work here at the Carsey School and at some other centers around the country and around the world that are seeking to make the world a better place. Now, I have a choice. I can either see you or I can take my glasses off and see my notes. So it's not really a contest. I'm going to take off my glasses because I really do need these notes here. So for starters, think about this. These are tough times to be an optimist, aren't they? I mean, not only do we have as many problems as at any time in human history. I mean, obviously, problems are part of the package of life, right? But today's biggest problems seem to be an order of magnitude greater than what they were in the past. Some are existential in nature. Global climate change, which can ultimately eliminate the human species, if you believe some of the scenarios. The threat of pandemic illness, the economic inequities that harbor violence that could be of immeasurable scale. And meanwhile, we all know more about all these things, and we know about them on a daily basis. So it's really difficult for anyone with any optimistic tendencies to maintain a good sense of humor in the midst of all of this. As the man said, the world is too much with us. So what is an optimist to do? For starters, we can assume that it's possible for us to make a difference. We'd like to assume that, right? All of us here in the room, I think, would would like to believe that. Now, we can't turn back the clock on climate change to the 18th century before humanity really began to damage the planetary environment, but we can slow it down and we can mitigate its impact. We can't prevent all infectious disease, but we can rein in its scope and we can treat its symptoms. And we can narrow the economic inequities both among and within nations. In the final analysis, though, we can only do what we can do. I mean, after all, what's the alternative? How would we feel about ourselves if we didn't at least try? Are we on the same wavelength here? Got to do something, right? So this evening I'd like to talk about an area that I know well, global poverty and the efforts that have been used to try to eliminate it. Now consider the traditional channels that have been used to end poverty. International institutions, national governments, foundations and philanthropists, NGOs, faith-based organizations, probably some other terms of art that could be thrown at this. Collectively, these entities have invested a total of more than $2.5 trillion over the past 6 decades since the global war against poverty began. It was in 1950. There is an official beginning to all this with the advent of Point 4 from USAID in 1950. Now, the UN and the World Bank continuously report progress. I mean, you've seen the frothy press releases, right? There are so many percentage of poor people are no longer poor, and they can impress you very much with all the numbers, but you know what they say about statistics. I won't repeat it. Yet the reality is, if you count, and I have counted, there are more people alive today living on $2 a day or less than the total population of the planet in 1950. Now, no matter how you jigger the percentages that come out of the World Bank and the UN, you have to admit that that is a pretty sorry statement about the efforts to end poverty in the world. Right? So, why has this been such a colossal failure? And there are 6 reasons I'd like to enumerate for you. First of all, most anti-poverty programs are planned by people in air-conditioned offices wearing suits. Now, I have nothing against people who wear suits, and I've got no problem with air conditioning, but I just think that people who are in those circumstances have no business trying to plan changes in the lives of people living on $2 a day or less, especially since so few of them have ever really met any of those people. Secondly, anti-poverty programs, even the most innovative of them, are so often top-down hierarchical affairs where the decisions are made at the topmost level, and the expectation is that anything good that happens is going to somehow trickle down to help out the poor people of the world. This is a delusion of experts. Experts haven't built a very good track record in the development field over the years. Third, the efforts to eradicate poverty have really only rarely been directed at poor people. Most of the economic development work that has been engaged in by all these various players has been to build the middle class. Check it out. That's been the dominant element in the so-called anti-poverty work that has been done. Focus on the middle class, focus on the cities, focus on the economy as a whole, and not a focus on poor people and their specific problems and prospects. Then there's the giveaway mentality. Giveaways breed dependence, and they breed self-doubt. The prospects for social change coming from so-called philanthropy, giving things away to people, are nil. You simply cannot donate people out of poverty. It doesn't work. Then, even in the case of those philanthropically funded projects that show promise, nice pilot projects that have great potential demonstrated through initial efforts, there's never enough money available to take them to scale. How do I know this? Because there aren't any at scale. To the best of my knowledge, there is no single philanthropic effort worldwide that is attempting, with any success, to lift people out of poverty that has done so on a very large scale. So ultimately, though, the problem becomes one that there are so many different things going on. The efforts are so scattershot, so widely dispersed, so uncoordinated, that bringing anything to scale would seem to be almost an insurmountable challenge. So if all these well-intentioned people, and I do emphasize that these are all very well-intentioned people. I have many, many friends who've worked very valiantly and loyally in these programs for decades in many cases. All these people at the UN, the World Bank, the philanthropies, the NGOs, and so on, if they've all tried and presumably done their best, and I believe most of them have tried and done their best and still failed, what's left? I mean, I'm a devotee of simple logic. It seems to me if you eliminate all the other sectors, what you have to look at what's left, and that is business. Business is the only thing that really hasn't been tried in any meaningful, large-scale way as an approach to ending poverty. It's just like Winston Churchill's comment about democracy. I mean, it may be the worst form of government, except for all the rest, right? There are certainly some downsides to business, just as there are to anything. But I'm not really talking about business as usual. I'm talking about mission-based business, what many people call social enterprise. And in relation to the question of global poverty, this would be business that's based on the understanding that the only surefire way to end poverty is to help poor people put more money in their pockets. Now, my co-author, Paul Polak, has been talking to poor people, at least 100 families a year, and in depth, like 6-7 hours at a time, so that he's spoken with over 3,000 families over the years. And he, innocently enough, will ask the question, well, why are you poor? And it may seem flip to you, but the answer they give is because we don't have enough money. It does seem like it's pretty simple logic. You have a little more money, you're not so poor. So what we need then are a very special kind of business, a new breed of business. Businesses that are designed either to sell poor people products and services that will enable them to increase their income, or to hire large numbers of poor people for steady jobs and pay them fair wages, or to sell them products and services that will help them save lots of money that would otherwise be wasted on such things as bogus health remedies, of which there is a great deal in the world. So how then, if all this is true, if this is what is needed, how can social enterprise succeed in ending poverty when all these traditional efforts have failed? And I think that there are 4 reasons that this really does make eminently good sense. This is the logical underpinning of this thesis, if you will. Successful businesses treat people as customers and listen to them, or pretty soon they're out of business. This is not true of USAID or the World Bank, I can guarantee you. Second, successful businesses earn profits that prevent them from going out of business. If the business is profitable, it will keep going, right? It'll have enough money to sustain itself, and if the profits are good enough, to grow. Successful businesses also hire lots of people. They pay wages, which keeps people coming back for more work, conveniently enough. And lastly, profitable businesses attract substantial capital that enables them to attain scale. If they're profitable enough, then they can bring in mainstream capital, expand, and go multinational. And that's the core concept that Paul Pollack and I have spelled out in the Business Solution to Poverty. And we describe a whole process, which I will enumerate for you a little bit later, that makes it possible to do just that. But before I do that, let me illustrate what I'm talking about by mentioning 3 of the companies that Paul is spearheading in India that I've been helping him on, that are in various stages of development now. First of all, there's a company called Sun Water. This is now in the pilot stage in rural India. Sun Water is designed to bring to market a solar pump that will be used initially and primarily to pump irrigation water from below the ground onto the fields. And the business model is based on, the prospects for success are based on the fact that this solar pump, which has a super simple design, is going to cost 80% less than the existing solution for that same problem. 80% less. It will run about $1,500 for the whole operation, the whole rig installed, whereas a diesel pump in India, there are at least 5 million of them in place in various farms around India, costs on the order of $7,500. So there's a class difference that is transcended by that 80% reduction in price. Second company, Transform Energy. Converting agricultural waste into briquettes or pellets that have a very high energy content and have very low carbon emissions that can be used as fuel is a process that's well underway. It's familiar, particularly in Canada and in Northern Europe. It's a process called torrefaction, and it requires using an oven, which unfortunately costs somewhere in the vicinity of $10 to $40 million. A torrefaction oven. Well, Transform Energy, with the help of the now retired CEO of a company called Ball Aerospace, who is heading up this venture, is piloting a $25,000 torrefaction oven that will be that can be installed in a village and can be used to convert agricultural waste drawn from within about a 4 kilometer radius around the village. It will bring $1,000 a day in additional revenue to the villagers. Now we're talking about a village that will typically have 1,000 people, so we're talking about an extra $1 a day. In most cases, we're talking about doubling their income just from this one venture. A third of these companies is Spring Health. This one is much further along than the others. It's been in operation for a couple of years now. Spring Health sells safe drinking water to over 200,000 villagers in eastern India, in the state of what's called Odisha, formerly Orissa, and has recently received a big jolt of funding, so that is on the verge of expanding very rapidly. The water is purified using an electrochlorinator. Most safe drinking water in India uses a process called reverse osmosis, which requires a gizmo, some sort of device, that runs somewhere in the neighborhood of, I'm told, $5,000 or $6,000. The electrochlorinator that Spring Health uses is an off-the-shelf item from a nonprofit in Switzerland. It costs $250. The $6,000 model will purify something on the order of 4,000 liters a day. The $250 model purifies 80,000 liters a day. It's rather more cost efficient. Furthermore, spending $6,000 to install a water purifying system in a village of 1,000 or 1,500 people is not a practical proposition. You can't sell enough of the stuff to justify the capital cost. But if you can come up with a way to deliver purified water at the village level, sell it locally within the village, then you can reach millions and millions more people. As it is, the pure water is available in cities and towns. It's not that hard to come across a water kiosk in a big town or city in eastern India. But go to a village, and the villagers will typically get their drinking water from the local stream or lake or from the well, and 95% of the time the water is contaminated with fecal pathogens. So this company uses a network of mom and pop shops that are the local distributors. The company staff goes into a village, meets with the elders or the headman or whatever the local terminology may be, and after schmoozing for hours and going through all the local rituals and rigmarole, I come up to the point where they ask him, who's the most reliable shopkeeper in town? Every village has got 2 or 3 of these little shops. In India, they're called kirana shops. They have other names in other parts of the world, but this is a mainstay in villages. Little shops that sell tobacco and and pop and sometimes some necessities even. They're directed to one of usually 2 or 3 different shopkeepers. They go through all the schmoozing and the rigmarole with those people as well, and they end up signing a contract. The company will come in and at its expense will build a 3,000-liter cement tank, hiring local artisans to do it, and will send around somebody usually on a motorcycle twice a week to purify the water that's in that tank. The water in the tank comes from the local water source, whether it's the stream or the well or whatever. And the guy from Spring Health walks up a ladder and pours some solution into the water, and it's purified. He waits for 45 minutes, tests it, and walks away. And then the villagers can buy a day's supply of water for a family of 5 or 6 for 8 cents, delivered to their homes. Because the shopkeeper has discovered, this is true in almost all the villages, that people don't want to come to the shop to pick up the water. They want it delivered to their homes. So the shopkeeper hires young people in the village to deliver it to them. So there are jobs created. The shopkeeper gets 25% of the gross revenue for the first 1,000 liters a day that's sold there. And then after that, he gets 50%, he or she. A lot of them are she. So that's Spring Health. It's going quite well. And the goal of the company is to reach 200 million customers by the early 2020s. And we're going to get there. Actually, the company could do that in India alone, but it is designed, the company is conceived to go into maybe 20 other countries around the world where conditions will permit that. Now these companies are just examples. They show just 3 of the innumerable business opportunities that abound at the base of the pyramid. Housing, education, healthcare, finance, agriculture, dozens of other fields. There are enormous opportunities. There are huge deficits that remain to be filled by business. Now, each of these companies is designed to serve at least 100 million customers in the space of a decade. Spring Health will do more. To generate $10 billion in annual sales, and to yield generous enough profits that we can get mainstream capital. And so far, everything looks copacetic. This all looks like it's on track and is going to work. But what makes me think that? I mean, why would I be so arrogant as to believe that this stuff could work, that these things could be so successful? Well, it's because every one of these companies and others that are on the drawing boards have been designed using a process that Paul Polak and I wrote about in our book that we call zero-based design. Now, zero-based design is analogous to zero-based budgeting. It doesn't strike me as a way to go to scale. Now, there may be a product or products that could, in fact, be scalable through franchising or some other mechanism that could be produced on a large scale and sold, exported from those villages to bring more revenue directly into the community. Theoretically, that's an attractive idea, but I haven't seen any evidence of any successful effort to do that at more than a small scale.
I think Jeff had a question, and then this gentleman.
I'm very intrigued with Paul Polak.
Just going to be the mic so it's on the video.
Okay, thanks. Paul Polak for many years was tremendously successful and has probably helped 20 million people get out of poverty through his nonprofit venture, through drip irrigation and treadle pumps and the like. And couldn't that model have been scaled up to do what you accomplished? He seems to have dropped that model and gone in this other direction. So I've always been really intrigued why and how this change occurred and when it occurred.
Well, funny thing. I asked him, and he said, "You can't make enough money from the treadle pumps or from the drip irrigation system. I mean, those are fine. They can be applied with the nonprofit model that he used, but can't go to scale with treadle pumps. I mean, there are several organizations, as I think you know, that actually sell treadle pumps. Right. I mean, Kickstart in East Africa has been doing it for a number of years, and they're great ventures, but they're not going to get to scale because it's not profitable enough for them to bring in enough revenue, enough profit to be able to scale up.
Excellent. Yeah.
Gentleman over on the. All right, we're gonna bump you and come back to you. Okay, David.
So, being an investor, Mal, what's the investment opportunity in those companies that you mentioned?
Well, I have a pretty fair amount of money invested in Spring Health and in its parent company. And as soon as Paul lets me, I'm going to put some money into the others. We haven't defined an exit strategy for any of these companies, but the belief is that they will become big enough that one way or another, depending on the laws of the country where they're located, that the stock will be negotiable. So presumably there will be a way for an investor to cash out. In the meantime, there will be enough profits to pay dividends or interest or whatever the form of the investment vehicle may be. So I expect to make some money. Yeah.
Last question over here.
I'm wondering, in view of the demand for capital for this type of venture and the risk associated with it, you've combined that with the desire to do good in the world. How about folks like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett? Are they looking at enterprises of this nature to try to affect the type of systemic change that they're looking to do? They're pretty savvy investors, too.
Yeah, well, you know, for many, many years, people have been trying to get Bill Gates to sell all the petroleum stock in his foundation. That would be the most effective thing that he could do to advance good in the world. Far more than he can do through the money his foundation gives away or any investments he makes. But he's still stuck in the old Milton Friedman mindset that business should be designed to make money for its stockholders. So I wouldn't even think about approaching Bill Gates for an investment in this. I could tell some stories, which there's not time for, but the gist of it is that Gates has his own data-driven model for determining how he will invest his philanthropic resources. I don't know what he does with the money he invests in for-profit business, but I doubt very much that he's investing it in social enterprise. I would be very, very surprised. His head just doesn't work that way, not from anything I can tell.
So sadly, we need to wrap up, but I want to, before we do that, just thank Mel again very much for being here. So before I pass the mic to somebody else, I just want to encourage everybody here. Again, the second annual New Hampshire Social Venture Innovation Challenge is taking place this fall. It is open to students at any New Hampshire college or university or high school, so not just UNH students. And as UC mentioned at the beginning, last year we had students from over 18 different majors, so this is not just about business, this is about students from across the campus. We also have a track that is open to community entrepreneurs, so anybody who lives in New Hampshire who has an idea for a social venture can enter. Aside from the glory and all the other wonderful benefits, there are great prizes, cash prizes to help you launch your venture. The first prize for the community track is $10,000, and the first prize for the student track is $5,000. So there are flyers outside. I have flyers. If anybody's interested, please come and check it out. The deadline to register is the 30th of October, and the deadline for submissions is the 19th of November, so you have plenty of time. I'd like to just hand over quickly to Jamie Hartford. Jamie is a student here at UNH, a senior communications major, and she is the co-president of Net Impact UNH.
Hi, everyone. I saw most of you at the luncheon today. I just wanted to let the students know here and honestly, any community members that we meet every single Thursday at 6 p.m. in the MUB right next door in room 115. And we discuss things similar to this every single meeting. So if anyone wants to come or ask me questions after, feel free. Thank you.
Mal spoke at the National Net Impact Conference, so it really is a fantastic global organization of over 50,000 community graduate and undergraduate members dedicated to driving change. You know, Jeff Braddock of Bridgespan published recently in the Stanford Social Innovation Review an article on transformative scale, reflecting that decade and a half after social entrepreneurship really started to take off, the scale of the impact of even the largest organizations, the anti-poverty organizations, educational organizations where I used to work, still was dwarfed by the magnitude of the problems. And he posited that we really need to look at two sides of reaching transformative scale. One is organizational growth, and he named 4 levers for growing organizations, as Mal really focused on here today. Do you need a problem that you can reach a market share of 100 million people? Do you take on new models for social franchising or cooperative ownership, or take just the highest leverage part of your model and grow it through another vehicle? So that's organizational growth. And on the other end, there's systems change. And you touched on that too, Mal. When you're in a new environment, policy might not be, it favors the established companies. Agua, with its plant-based technology, probably doesn't have certainly in the United States, but in other countries too, doesn't have the regulatory support or legitimacy. And it certainly doesn't have the power of the entrenched interests. So policy change. Institutional structure, the rise of impact investors and more patient capital. You still get a market return, but a little bit further out, and cultural norms. So I thank you, Mal, for just really sharing with us what a really powerful organizational growth model can look like in this broader system of social innovation and leading to to the transformative change that we aspire to. Mal will be out in front signing books. We have them for sale, and I hope you will take a moment to speak with him, to speak with each other, and to continue our good work together. For those who are interested in the benefit corporation model, as Fiona mentioned, October 16th, we'll have another event here. And look also for the Discovery Dialogue in social innovation programs throughout the course of the year. Thank you once again.